Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. This time I'm going to go through 20 songs that I think should have been singles. I'll show the albums that they came from, and I'll also show the 20 songs I think they should have replaced as singles. The reason I'm doing this is because, in some of my other videos I have a very bad habit of saying I think this should have been a single over this one. And my recent David Bowie RCA singles ranking, that is very evident, because about 3 singles in a row I remember saying that this should have been a single over this. So I thought I'd try and pick 20 artists and see if there's any songs I think would have made better singles. Now this is obviously all subjective, so everybody has their own views which is fair enough. But we'll start off, and this is the Smiths' Meet His Murder album, and the single from this is That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, which I don't think was a good choice. For me, the best choice was Barbarism Begins at Home, which as an LP track is a little bit long, so it would have had to have been edited or faded out a little bit, but it's a really good dancey track. I think it would have brought the Smiths back into the top 20, whereas That Joke failed to make the top 40. So that's the first choice, is Barbarism Begins at Home to replace That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. Okay, sorry. The next one, this is Slade's Nobody's Fools album from 1976, and the second single from this was Let's Call It Quits, which is okay, but it's a little bit on the safe side. And as glam rock was dying, or nearly already dead by this time, they have a song on this called LA Jinx, which is a really groovy number, and I think it would have been excellent as a single. The first single was In For a Penny, which is not too bad. It's quite different to what they were doing before, but I thought Let's Call It Quits was a bit of a step backwards. LA Jinx would have worked really well, and it's a pretty groovy track. So that's my second choice, LA Jinx instead of Let's Call It Quits. Okay, this is TRex, and this is their 1976 album Futuristic Dragon. There was 2 singles taken off this, New York City and Dreamy Lady, even though both singles were actually released before the album was. But the whole album was recorded in '75, around the time of the release of the singles. The song I would have dropped would have been as a single would have been Dreamy Lady, and used the song Sensation Boulevard instead. Again, it's a very infectious song. It's got a really catchy chorus, and it's a real groovy number, and it's more in line with what Mark Bolan was trying to get, what he was actually trying to do to become more soulful. There he had a great song, and he chose Dreamy Lady instead, which it's okay, but it's nowhere near as good as Sensation Boulevard. So this one is Sensation Boulevard to replace Dreamy Lady. Next up is Kate Bush's The Dreaming album from 1982, and the third single from this was There Goes a Tenor, which was a very odd choice of a single. I would have put in a song called Suspended in Gaffa. Now obviously she realised the single potential of that, because a video was made for it and was obviously released in various other countries, but for the UK we got There Goes a Tenor. Suspended in Gaffa is the second best song off this after Sat in Your Lap, and would have made a far better single, and it would have brought her back into the top 20, I'm certain. There Goes a Tenor failed to reach the top 75. David Bowie, The Next Day. The second single from this was The Stars Are Out Tonight, which is not a bad song, but it's not great single material. It works better whenever you watch the video of it, because it's got an excellent video, but the song itself is quite weak. The song I would have picked for the second single is You Feel So Lonely You Could Die, which is the best song on the album, and is it's almost a throwback to the Aladdin Sane Ziggy days. You get the drum intro, the same drum intro as 5 Years, but you get it as the outro in this. So yeah, brilliant song. I've always described You Feel So Lonely You Could Die as if you throw Driving Saturday and Rock and Roll Suicide up in the air. You Feel So Lonely You Could Die is what will fall down. Okay, so that's You Feel So Lonely You Could Die to replace The Stars Are Out Tonight. A band I very rarely show, and that's Stiff Little Fingers, and this is their 4th album. It was their last album before they split up at the end of 1982, start of 1983. The song The Price of Admission is a bit of a boring type ballad, which was released in 83 as a single. I would have picked Is That What You Fought the War For, which is a real rousing but catchy number. I would even have made a double A side with Love of the Common People, which is the cover version of the old reggae song, which is a great version as well. Paul Young incidentally recorded it in 1982 as well as Stiff Little Fingers, completely different version but excellent as well. So Is That What You Fought the War For instead of The Price of Admission. The album everyone loves to hate, and that's Queen's Hot Space. And no, it's not hot, it's not Body Language. I always liked it and I think it deserved to be a single. The one I wouldn't have had as a single was Back Chat, and I would have replaced that with Roger Taylor's Calling All Girls, which I think is one of the catchiest songs not only Roger Taylor ever wrote but Queen ever released, and it was a single in the States. But not over here, and I think it would have been great and would have got top 20 without a shadow of a doubt. So Calling All Girls to replace Back Chat. Okay, this is Squeeze Babylon and On album, and again I can never remember the number here as 8535937. It's not a great song at all. I would have replaced that with the Chris Difford led vocal of Striking Matches, which is by far the best song on the whole album. This album for some reason had about 5 singles off it, and it's not the best of albums by Squeeze. I think it's a little bit sort of sterile, but 8539537 is not great, and I've definitely replaced it with Striking Matches. Okay. This is The Police, Ghost in the Machine, and the 3rd single from this is Spirits in the Material World. I think it's rather bland. I would have replaced it with a song called Darkness, which is the last song on side 2, which is a Stuart Copeland number, I believe. They got it right with Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, and I think they got it right also with Invisible Sun, the 1st single. I think it should have been swapped the other way around though, but definitely Darkness to replace Spirits in the Material World. It's not a bad song, and I actually like it a little bit more than I did, but as a Police single, no. I think the Police singles were very, very high quality, and that was the first substandard one that they ever released. Mentioned this one before, Paul McCartney. Press to Play album. The singles off this were Press, excellent. Pretty Little Head, very adventurous, and yeah, thumbs up to McCartney for that. The 3rd one's not bad, it's Only Love Remains, but it's a bit of a standard ballad, and I would have replaced it with the excellent Footprints, which has got a beautiful sort of Spanishy feel to it, and I think it would have been a pretty big hit for McCartney at the time. In 1986, so Footprints to replace Only Love Remains. Another album I've shown before, and that's Cyndi Lauper. There's about 4 or 5 singles taken off this, but one of them was the first song in side 1 called Money Changes Everything, which is great, but it's not really single material. It's a very good album opener. I would have definitely replaced that with the version of Prince's When You Were Mine, which I think the 3rd song in side 1, which is excellent, and it's my favourite song off the album. So When You Were Mine to replace Money Changes Everything. The Bangles' debut album, arguably their best album. The two singles off this, Hero Takes the Fall and Going Down to Liverpool. Going Down to Liverpool is brilliant. Hero Takes the Fall is not. It's okay. It's a good album opener, but not a great single. I would have replaced that with a jingly jangly sound of called James, which is the third song on side 1. And especially around this time, around 1984, whenever the Smiths were becoming very successful with their sort of jingly jangly guitar, this is very similar. I think that they could have broken the charts or got into the charts with James. So James to replace Hero Takes a Fall. 1985, The Style Council. This is our favourite shop. Walls Come Tumbling Down was the first single, excellent. Come to Milton Keynes was the second single, which didn't do too well, but I like it because I think it's extremely catchy, although it's a bit too political. But the one I would have replaced would have been the third single, called The Lodgers, which has Daisy Lee, vocals very high in the mix, and I think she almost takes lead vocals on most of it. And I would have replaced that with a song called A Man of Great Promise, which opens side 2, and I think it's a brilliant song, one of Weller's best Style Council songs, and it would have done really well as a single. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers from 1987, I believe. This is an album, Let Me Up, I've Had Enough. A couple of singles off this in the UK. I think Jammin' Me was the single, which is pretty good. But there's one called All Mixed Up, which is not bad, but there's a song on the second song off side 1 called Runaway Trains. Maybe be a little bit too long, but in an edited form it would have been a fantastic song, fantastic single. And so that would be my choice to replace All Mixed Up. So Runaway Trains to replace All Mixed Up. Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, and this is Junk Culture, and this have 4 singles off it. Locomotion was the other one, Talking Loud and Clear, Tesla Girls, and the fourth one was Never Turn Away. Now Never Turn Away is crap, sorry, but it's not very good at all. There's a song off here called All Wrapped Up with steel drums and so forth, a very Caribbean-y feel, and I think it would have been a fantastic single. Especially Locomotion was a single, and it's the same sort of vibe as Locomotion, and it's even better. So yeah, All Wrapped Up to replace Never Turn Away. And funny enough, the B-side of Never Turn Away was an alternate version of All Wrapped Up called Wrap Up, which in itself is far better than Never Turn Away. So All Wrapped Up to replace Never Turn Away. Adamant's album from 1983. The first single is the excellent Puss in Boots with a fantastic video. The second single is Strip, the not so great song but with a fantastic video, and Strip also features Frida from ABBA on spoken vocals, but I don't think it's a great single. I would have definitely had the song Spanish Games, which has got a Spanish feel to it, and it's more upbeat, and it's just a far better song. So Spanish Games to replace Strip from 1983. Talking of ABBA and the Voulez-Vous album, and again it had quite a few singles off it. Chiquitita, I Have a Dream, Does Your Mother Know, and the double A side of Angel Eyes and Voulez-Vous. I was nearly tempted to drop Does Your Mother Know, but to be honest, it's not bad. I would actually have dropped the song Voulez-Vous and put the song As Good As New in as a double A side with Angel Eyes, and that would have been a fantastic single. Voulez-Vous is, you know, very disco-y, but so is As Good As New, but it's a far better song. So that's As Good As New to replace Voulez-Vous. Blondie's The Hunter, a couple of singles off this. The first one was Island of Lost Souls, which is okay. The second one, War Child, which is not great. The song I would have chosen to replace War Child is the one they submitted for use in the James Bond film, For Your Eyes Only, and it's called For Your Eyes Only, but it was rejected in favour of Sheena Easton. And it's a great tune, and it's got that James Bondy feel to it. I think they should have released it anyway. I still think it would have been a hit, and I think the public, they would have associated it with the film, even though it was never accepted as the theme tune. It's a far better theme tune than Sheena Easton's For Your Eyes Only. I love it, it's great, and to me it should have been the second single, and that's 1982. Okay, two more. Billy Joel's The Bridge album. It's not one of his best, it's quite dated. A Matter of Trust was one of the singles here, as is This Is the Time, and they're not bad. The other single here was Modern Woman, but I think it's rubbish and it's very dated. I would have replaced that with the first song on side one called Running on Ice. I think it's a catchy little, really catchy little number, and funny enough, the start of it is actually very similar to the start of the Police's Spirits in the Material World, which I would have dropped as a single, but to me Running on Ice is a really, really good song, and most definitely I would have chosen that over Modern Woman. And lastly, we have the Rolling Stones, and I think a lot of people know I love this album. This is the Undercover album, and there was two singles from this. The absolutely awesome Undercover the Night, and the not too bad She Was Hot. But if I'm being honest, I think She Was Hot is a little bit basic. It should have been replaced by the song Too Much Blood, and there's a video for Too Much Blood as well, so they obviously thought of releasing it. The horn section in it is so infectious, it's really, really good, and there's a really good dance groove to it. Okay, there's some spoken vocals in it which are a wee bit cringeworthy, but I'm sure you could sort of adjust and fiddle about with that so that it doesn't become too excessive. But yeah, Too Much Blood is a really good song, and most definitely should have been the second single. So that's 20 songs I think should have been singles. Again, it's very subjective, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to have another video coming quite soon. So that's all for me. Okay, all the best now. Bye bye.